bratty kid. Shame on him.
Come here.
Neat old house. Ooh, we got an old hiccup too.
Now Todd is taking a picture of my house that we're moving up to Gresham.
To take.
I like that.
She likes that.
I like that.
15 inches in diameter. I don't know. I've read it several times to make sure I got the size right.
See, if you look in here, you can see the pipes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Everyone likes to see them?
Oh, gosh, this is neat. Having this.
And we're making a vegetable stew for tonight. Oh, yeah. And if you'll excuse me, I was just about ready to put your bread on there to toast. It's also very convenient because sometimes Mr. Beekman will come home late from the bank and we can put his supper plate on there to warm. So it's quite a nice little hungry.
What a fun. This is my goodness. What a, oh, do come in, come in.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to
Practicing right now, but I am so happy that you came to visit. And of course, my niece Maggie's here. She comes over quite a bit to help me. I do so enjoy having Maggie visit with me. It's, my goodness, I do. We'll go to Portland where my son lives and then take the boat down. But if we go by train, it's just a good long day. Well, there's still a lot of flat tires. It's quite bumpy, and that's one of the reasons I don't care. She was my youngest child. She died right after the picture was made. Oh, I miss her so much. I just miss her so good.
What did she die of?
She had measles. And we took this one of me. Now that was taken just about the time we got married. So you can see that's been a long time. That has been 50 years now. Cornelius and I just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary here anyway. You know, Ben, of course, at his age is 47 now. And when he was down for 4th of July, he was telling me, he says, Mother, I do wish you'd take that picture down. He thinks that's a little bit childish. Do come in. I think you can go over here.
Is this a feather bed?
No, I have a new cotton mattress on it.
Oh, wow.
He thinks it's better than the feather bed, but I like the feather bed.
I do too.
Especially in the winter.
Do we have everyone in here now?
Yes.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Melissa, and this is Miss Carrie's room. Travel. She's traveled all over the world. She's traveled to Europe many times, and she travels to Portland to visit her brother. She travels quite often to San Francisco. She loves to shop there. So pretty. Do any of you play the piano? No one? Well, I played something for you, but I've only been taking lessons for about 2 weeks now, and I'm not very good yet. I can just troll at home, so it's nice to come and listen to the Beekmans when I'm here. You start by winding the crank, and you turn off the brake, you let it start spinning, and you put down the needle, and then you can open these doors to make it louder, and close them to make it softer. And you just take off the needle and turn the brake on.
See, that's the awesome bedroom right there, that one bedroom
Mhm.
that we were in.
How hot do you think it is?
Oh, about 140.
Feels like it. We're in the desolate town of Jacksonville, where we drink a lot of water. People watch, this is the place to be.
Wow. Wouldn't it be low if you'd see more and more and more?
No, that would have been weird to see.
Very pretty.
Water. Water.
Yeah, I want to show the kids Crater Lake when we get home. I want to have it on video to show them. Kids, this is Crater Lake. Papa and Grandma Kay were at Crater Lake, and it is pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Where are you?
Hello, Crater Lake.
Say hi to the kids, all of them.
Hey everybody. Courtney, Reggie, Haley. We're having fun. The colors down below here.
It's not going any further.
Snow in July.
Boat ride, and Papa almost slipped and fell on his butt. Would you just get over here on the side?
Okay, something that you may have noticed since you've entered our caldera is some yellow stuff floating in the water. That's not a pollution from the boat operation or anything else that we do here in the lake. That is a result of pine pollen. This is an accumulation of pollen from the trees inside the caldera. I'd like to ask you to use your imagination a little bit. We're going to talk about a mountain that's no longer here, and it's a little easier to envision if you allow yourself to imagine former volcanoes that have built up over several thousand years to a height of about 12,000 feet. To give you an idea what 12,000 feet is here in the caldera, that mountain peak just over the east rim, about 3,000 feet higher than that one, whose summit would have been towards the south end of the present location of the lake, and was a multi-summited mountain, not a single stratovolcano like Shasta Shasta or Mount Hood, but a composite volcano made up of both shield and stratovolcanoes and cones. And our first stop will be a section of lava flows, the most of which we call Lau Rock. Started out nice flat, probably started about 4,000 feet, which is what most of the region is. Klamath Falls is about 4,000 feet. And it started to, there was a vent here, and in fact the vent was spread out over the whole area, and that's when the magma came out and started to build volcanoes. And you can see right along here, you can follow these lines, these strata lines that go along. They get a little higher as they flow over here towards Lau Rock. And these lower ones, the older ones, are from the shield volcano. Shield volcano is a nice flat, smooth volcano. The lava comes out onto the surface, and it flows long distances for silica. And silica flows are a lot thicker and they don't move as far. And you start to see examples of that up along the side here. And underneath the ground is called magma. Once it gets on the outside, it's called lava, but it's the same molten rock. So it's about 1,200 feet thick, between 1,200 and 1,300 feet thick, horizontally. Oh, I'm sorry, vertically. We've got Devil's Backbone, named Devil's Backbone because it reminds some people of the spine of some large beast crawling up out of the caldera. This is an example, like I said before, of a lava dike. What happens with a lava dike is that when the mountain was still intact, the lava had to find a way to the surface somehow, and it takes the path of least resistance. And sometimes that'll be a fissure or a crack into the side of the mountain. And when you have a crack like that, then the magma will flow along, it'll find that crack, and it'll use that crack to get up and out of the interior of the mountain. And here's an example of that. There would have been a fissure here about the size of that, roughly the size of this dike, and the magma came up through the crack, made its way up to the surface, and its structure is more intact. And when it's more intact, it's more resistant to erosion. And later on during the collapse, when all these other parts eroded away, you can see most of this rock is relatively crumbly around the caldera edge. But the dike stayed intact. So this was re-exposed when the mountain collapsed. And it changed it into when it loses pressure, or when it comes under contact with a lot less pressure, it changes into a foam. And you can think of that as if you shake up a Coke can. If you take a Coke, shake it up, pop the top, it comes out as foam and spray. Same kind of thing happens with molten rock. It'll turn into a foam, go over the side, and either be blown up into the air and be taken by the wind, or it'll pour out the sides in that form. And then when it hardens, you get a piece of rock called pumice. And most people are familiar with pumice. It's a nice light rock, and actually it looks like a piece of foam. If you look at it, it's porous, it's full of holes. It's a ring fracture eruption. And once it was a ring, actually there were eruptions all the way around within about a half mile of the current caldera wall, and it went through the current location of Wizard Island. So that was the second stage. After everything collapsed, then the magma started to flow over the interior, making the lake making the caldera relatively watertight, and it also started some new lava domes like Wizard Island, which we see, and also some ones that are submerged. I think it collapsed just within just a few days. And as it fell inside, the caldera walls would have been relatively steep, about pretty close to 90 degrees at the beginning of the collapse. And then, of course, the landslide and large pieces fall off, and it starts to erode away. And that's why the caldera is slanted the way it is. And it continues to move away from the interior of the lake. You see numerous landslides all around, and this continues on. It's submerged around the interior of the lake. And right along there, then, there were some subaqueous eruptions later on after the lake had filled. And we think that if the snowfall was the same 7,000 years ago as it is today, it would have taken about 300 years for the lake to fill to its present height. And that's about 5 to 600 inches of snow per year on average. And as the lake filled, of course, things happened along this rim fracture, including buildup right through here. And then you can see eventually lava was extruded onto the surface, which is what these branches are that come out from Wizard Island. This particular type of lava is called a'a lava. That's a Hawaiian word for this type, a lot like an hourglass. If you think of an hourglass like on the beginning of that soap opera where they have that hourglass, I don't know which one that is. You see that the sand accumulates at the bottom in a pretty much a pyramidal shape. Same thing happens here. The material comes out of the middle, piles up at the base, and as it grows, it continues to pile up relatively evenly.
Camera's cluster.
Can I have everybody that's coming on this boat head back towards the boat, please?
Example of caldera collapse is that as the rocks come down the side, sometimes they bring trees with them. And there's one tree that's relatively famous for people that work here and know any information about the park, and that's the Old Man of the Lake. The Old Man of the Lake is a 40-foot hemlock tree, and we're going to go take a look at it. We have an opportunity. He's right out here, just off. Been in the water since 1892. That's when, as far as why it floats like this, no one knows for sure. We used to think that it had rocks down in the roots anchoring it into that position. But since then we've examined it up and down and all over, and we can't figure out why it floats like that. It's just the way that it does. And we'll try to put it on one side of the boat. Several tons of rock have fallen all at the same time and accumulated at the bottom over here at Chesapeake Slide. We'll also take a look at some waterfalls over there. Evidence of how the caldera continually changes, continually collapses. A while back, in fact, several thousand years ago, this whole chunk of ground was up there with that other lava flow. It's a part of that, originally was a part of that lava flow, and for one reason or another, due to erosion underneath of it, it came down in one big piece. and this kind of slid down from its original location and came to rest here. And actually the slide goes down below the lake surface, and the slide actually extends out here towards the center. But this is kind of the top edge of it. And it would have been up there, and you can kind of find some of the striations. You can look at the striations here, and look at the same type of striations up above, and you can almost match it like a puzzle. It takes a little imagination, not too much. What happens here, why it's so lush and green, you see a lot of the caldera is pretty rocky. Right through here we've got a lot of nice ground cover, a lot of trees, and that's because it has this ledge or lip up along the top, and that allows for snow and rainfall to accumulate. With the snow and rainfall accumulation, water's constantly provided to this area, so we get all the nice shrubbery, and it also feeds these two waterfalls that you see right here. Actually three, but that one's not present. These waterfalls, sometimes they last 365 days, sometimes they dry up in September, October, and don't start to flow again until the winter snows arrive. But it's one of the nicer, calmer places in the lake. Usually the water's not very rough here, and we like to come up and take a look at the nice... It camouflages itself, sort of, with its background. It's made out of the same kind of material that the caldera wall next to it is. So if you look at it from most angles, it kind of blends in with the side. You get off to either side from the south, or over here from the east rim, you can get it in profile and see it a little better, like we can today. And we'll go ahead and go take a lap around Phantom Ship and let you get a good look at that. And this is kind of our last, we'll sum up the evidence of the collapse with Phantom Ship. What Phantom Ship is technically is a lava dike. It's just like the Devil's Backbone, except it's a lava dike from the interior of an old volcano that was here originally when we talked about the mountain building. And I said that it was a multi-peak volcano. Well, one of the oldest volcanoes, about 400,000 years old, was right here, and this would have been its interior. This would have been where the magma was on its way to the surface. And of course, I talked about the phantom aspect of its name. Of course, its silhouette, it sort of looks like a ship. It has sort of masts. It used to have more masts, and through the years, it kind of crumbles. It's sort of fragile. You can see it's got a lot of crumbled debris around the base. As far as the biology of the island, you see a lot of lichens. 7 different species of conifers live on the island. We'll also see a lot of swallows and ducks and things like that make use of the island from time to time. And as we pass through this point between Lizard Island and the shore, this is the shallowest part of the lake, about 25 feet through here. And when it's not so cloudy, you can usually see the bottom.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Wow, Todd, look at, there you go.
Starts dropping off. Starts dropping off.
minute.
The red lichen on
Look at the red stuff. It's cool.
And if you have a sharp eye, as we pass across the point of the island, we'll be traveling from about 30 feet depth to 600 feet depth. And there's quite a drop off right here. But when it's cloudy, it's pretty tough to see.
light blue to dark blue, is that right?
Well, now we'll be leaving the oldest part of the caldera, and we'll head out. Well, up here on the right side of the boat, up on the eastern wall, is Pumice Castle. That's that kind of rusty orange colored structure. It's not a man-made structure, although it sure appears to be. It's an example of welded pumice. Then we talked about pumice earlier being kind of a foamy material, very porous material. Well, under a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, pumice can be squished down to a nice solid rock. And actually, as you walk back up Cleveland Cove at the end of the tour, when you go back up Cleveland Cove, you'll see some of the same colored rock, and that'll get you an up close and personal view of what welded
Todd,
pumice
there's a slide
actually
going
is.
on right now. See the dust? That's a slide. Look at that. Can you see another good?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Can you see it good? Nice one.
Had a nice landslide. Okay. Back up all this time I was showing you that landslides all the time? Well, there you go.
No extra charge for that, is there?
Interesting, Todd.
Of course, you can see that next to the landslide, Pumice Castle has some spires on top. The spires are formed from wind and rain erosion for the most part, kind of cut away. And if you're interested in getting a closer look at Pumice Castle, you can actually drive up to the top of this, right above the landslide, that's called Cloud Cap. And Cloud Cap has an overlook that you can reach from East Rim Drive. So you can actually drive your car right up to Cloud Cap and leave your car, and then you can look down on top of Pumice Castle or examine the landslides around there. And if you look at the base of the lava flow that forms Cloud Cap, you kind of make out a sort of a face shape. And then it's debatable of whose space it is. I think it's Reagan's space, but I'm not sure. That's correct. And that kind of gives you a brief look at the East Rim. We don't get to see as much of the East Rim as we do in the West Rim, but it's basically the same on both. Approximately. Of course, that can vary a little bit. We're in a current drought, same drought that California is experiencing, so we're probably a little lower than that, but only a few feet lower. And of course, at the beginning of the tour, I said I'd say a little bit about the lake. So this is the 7th deepest lake in the world, at close to 2,000 feet. It's the deepest lake in the United States. It's the 2nd deepest in North America. There's actually one in Canada that's a little bit deeper. It's the clearest lake in the United States. In fact, it's the clearest lake in the world, and sometimes we can see it depths close to 40 meters, which is about 120, 130 feet. And those are world record depths for clarity. And what the resource management people do, we have a whole team of people that we call our lake crew. The lake crew comes out and they do things like measure water temperature, measure clarity, and they examine the health of the fish in the lake and other organisms in the lake. Occurring here, you don't see any rivers coming in or out of the waters or out of the lake, so there's no way for fish to really get here. However, there are fish here in the lake, and they were carried down originally in 1888 by bucket. And William Steele collected 500 fingerlings over in the Rogue River just west of us, and brought 500 fingerlings up to the caldera wall, and he started transporting them in buckets, and at the end of the ordeal he had about 37 fish actually making it into the water alive. And since then, off and on, the lake was stocked until the Second World War, at which point there were no longer any money or resources for that kind of thing, so they discontinued and they haven't stocked it since. So the fish that live here today are the ancestors of those fish about 50 years ago. And the ones that are remaining today are the rainbow trout and kokanee salmon. There were actually as many as 6 different species put into the lake. Unfortunately, some of the species are the type of fish that spends part of its life in freshwater, part of its life in saltwater, and of course there's no way for the fish to get out of the lake, so it was a bad choice. Probably wasn't a biologist that picked those fish, probably a sportsman that didn't realize that they wouldn't do very well here. So now we're down to the 2 species to keep things as natural as we can, and part of that is not adding an animal to a resource like a fish. So we no longer stock them and we allow fishing. In fact, we encourage fishing as long as you don't use any bait. We don't like to get any more pollutants into the water than we have to. Everyone asked me on their way out of the boat, why is the water so blue? Well, the water's so blue because it's so clear and so deep. And as the light penetrates the water kind of starts to filter out the different colors of the rainbow. It starts with the reds and the oranges and the yellows and the greens, and eventually the only color that remains that actually penetrates into the depths are the blues and ultraviolets. And then of course the blue refracts, bounces off the water molecules in the lake, and kind of is a multiplying effect. And then that color is reflected back into your eyes. So that's one of the nice blue color. It's not anything chemical or it's not a copper. There aren't that many minerals that are released into the water or something like that. It just happens to be very clear and very deep. Well, our last stop then will be the dock, and as we approach the dock, you can start to make out the trail up ahead, and you can start thinking about the equivalents of 70 stories of hiking that you have going forward.
Yay.
Thanks for coming on our tour with us. We always have a good time. Hope that you had a good time, and we hope that you did you enjoy the rest of your vacation?
Steep hill.
Courtney, Reggie, and Haley, we're walking back up to the car. Papa and Grandma Kay are getting their exercise, and this is Crater Lake down below. We're way up high. We started at the bottom. Started down at the bottom.
Clear down.
Walked 15 miles to the bottom. No, Grandma's kidding.
There's a mountain lion.
Yeah. Seagull. Bald seagull. That's Crater Lake. Okay.
Killer squirrel. Yes! Made it!
Do it again.
Oh, again?
Do it.
Yes! Made it!